Yo, what's going on, guys? Jared here. Today I have a new video for you. I'm going to be going over some cards post Photon Hypernova, the next most anticipated deck. This is going to change the format immensely, and because I'm not going to any events until that set drops, which is going to be in a couple months, I want to start going over it now and start showing you guys some of the power of what these cards can do. A little deck profile, just a starter deck, just something that maybe you could test out in Dueling Book or something like that. And then just go over the cards. You know, this is going to be a big thing in the new meta. It counters a lot of strategies, and yeah, it's a really, really big impact. Just make sure if you enjoy the content to subscribe. I'm really trying to hit 1,000 subscribers, and yeah, we'll just jump into the video. Okay, guys, so here is the deck list for now. This is so early. This is like very, very minimal testing. This is just me going over the cards and making a deck list that I could go over. I'm going to go over the cards one by one just so we can at least explain a little bit what they are, what they do, yada yada. There's many different new cards in here because we pretty much in the previous set got the bare bones of Kashtira, and this set we're getting the heavy hitters of the deck. So let's go through the card by card, and then we can talk from there. So three-dimensional shifter, because Tearlments is still a very strong strategy, of course, and it just passed on a lot of decks, and it also has synergies with this deck as well. 3 Fenrir, this card obviously was good without the archetype, and now with the archetype itself, it's even better because you can search any of the Kashtira monsters. This is a new card, Kashtira Rise Heart. This is the next thing in the, what's it called, the Visa Starfrost line of monsters. So yeah, we're going to read them together. If you control Kashtira, special summon this. You can special summon monsters except Exceed monsters. Very, very good. Free extender. And then during the turn, it was normal. During the main phase, if this card was no more special summon this turn, you can banish the Kashtira card from your deck and banish the top 3 cards of your opponent's deck face down, and then this becomes level 7. So it's an extender that can help go in the rank 7s, but it also like banishes your opponent's cards, which can also help trigger your Shangri-La, which was the card we already have that came out, and is their main rank 7. So this card's really, really good as an extender, and triggering Shangri-La, which triggering Shangri-La is like a very important thing in this deck, as you'll learn when the new format comes. But yeah, this is going to be a main piece of the combos that you're going to see in the next upcoming format. 3 copies of Unicorn. So we have this card now, and it is kind of like more of a tech choice that some people can do. And now with the set coming out, this card goes from like one of the weaker Kashtiras to, I believe this is the best Kashtira that you can draw. And this is strictly because of the spells that you get in this set. You get 2 absolutely insane Kashtira spells. It's just broken. Like, this is like a 1-card combo and can do like multiple different things. It's ridiculous how good this card is. I play 2 copies of Phhy Beast right now. There are other options for this card. It sucks this is a normal summon, but banishing a Psychic from the deck is also really helpful because you can banish things like Fenrir and Unicorn. And like it really helps if you open up like Birth, so that like Beast Birth can be like a little combo you can do to help get your engine started, right? So this is just something I'm trying out. This isn't solidified. I know this is like very expensive right now, but I really don't even think this is going to be played. Currently, I don't know. This is just something worth trying. I just like that it becomes level 7 and it banishes from deck, like kind of like Rise Heart does, but on a normal summon. So it's not bad. 2 Kashtira Scareclaw. This is another new one. This is kind of weird because the Kashtiras are getting like other archetypes put into them, and these other archetype cards are also very, very good, which is kind of terrifying when you think about it, because it's almost like if, what is the archetype? Zephyra? Yeah, like if the Zephyra archetypes that were merged together were like really meta relevant. Like, and Zephyra was good, but this stuff's like insane. So when you have like cards like this and then the Tearlment as well, it kind of gets terrifying. But all right, for the Scareclaw Kashtira specifically, for the effect anyway, it's coming out next set as well. During the main phase, you can special summon it from your hand, and if you do, banish a Kashtira or Scareclaw from your hand or graveyard. So keep in mind, this is a quick effect you can do on both players' turn, and special summoning your opponent's turn, you can use it to trigger some cards, stuff like that. But being a free extender that can banish something from the graveyard is always very good. And then if this card attacks, it can attack while in defense position, and if it attacks to use its defense as attack for damage calculation only. But the cool part was the effects of any monsters that battles your Kashtira or Scareclaw monsters are negated until the end of the turn. That's a very important thing, is end of the turn. So the reason this is so important is this card actually outs Babushka by itself, and a lot of decks and strategies such as Tearlment, if they're going to still be in the format, actually lose to Scareclaw Kashtira, because when it's summoned in defense, it's a continuous effect to make it be able to attack. You can attack over the Babushka, and it'll even negate the Babushka if it's summoned for a reason doesn't die. which is also very very relevant. There's other aspects of it that are also pretty good to negate stuff, but the main thing is that it can beat over Babushka in my opinion. The negate can come up again randomly because it's till the end of turn, not just to the end of the battle phase or something. So any like I can't even think of another example right now, but there are other cards that could be relevant where this can negate it. So just something to keep in mind. A nice extender to have. And then the Tyromint's Kashtira. So it is the same summoning condition as the Scareclaw, but you can also banish Tyromints rather than Scareclaw monsters. Again, it's a quick effect, so being able to summon your opponent's turn. This one's crazy in Tyromints as well, because if it's normal or special, you can send the top 3 cards of either player's deck to the graveyard. So it's another Haveness almost for the Tyromint deck itself. So this is not just for the Kashtira deck. Again, this card's crazy for actual Tyromints as well. Again, like having 2 quick effects now that can mill on turn 0, it's kind of getting annoying now, because if you're playing Tyromints, you have that Keldo you can trigger sometimes, the Kashtira, and then the Haveness. So you have a lot of like in-engine hand traps that you can just mill cards on turn 0 and play on both players' turns. It gets a little obnoxious, but luckily, even in those scenarios, the Tyromint deck does have to change and adapt because of this deck, because this deck just hard counters it. And like Unicorn, you can't play one Kikalos anymore because of just how Unicorn operates. You need to play more than one Kikalos, because if you get your one Kikalos ripped from Unicorn, your deck kind of just sucks after that. So, just something to keep in mind. But anyway, so like I said, if it quick effect special summon itself by banishing a Kashtira or a Tyromint, and then if it's no more special summon, send the top 3 of either deck, and then if it's sent to the graveyard, you can send the top 2 cards of the deck to the graveyard. So even if you mill it in the deck, you can mill an extra 2. Those effects aren't really crazy for the Tyromints, for the Kashtira deck itself. Sometimes you can mill some stuff and get like a birth target or whatever, but nothing like too crazy. It's mainly just used as an extender. That's why it's a 1-of in this deck. Moving forward to spell cards, 3 copies of Book of Moon. Book of Moons and set cards in general are very good in the Kashtira mirror match. Also, things like Nibiru might see play again, just something to keep in mind, because Nibiru was pretty good against this deck. But I'm using Book of Moon for now, because I don't like Book of Eclipse, because it books down my own cards. I have it down here. I don't like booking down my own cards as well. If I make a board and my opponent's trying to break through it, I want to be able to book their card and not all of mine. That's very annoying. And I also don't like the fact that if I don't have a punish for them, for the Book of Eclipse, they could just draw like a million cards. I just lose the game outright, right? So I don't want that to happen. Book of Moon is just like a nice solid 1-of in the main deck at least. Maybe you could switch out Eclipse for like Swords of Concealing Light as well in the side deck if you wanted to. But I think main deck wise, Book of Moon hits the spot perfectly, just because it's still a quick play. Doing your opponent's turn, you can still turn off things like Barrier Statue. You can still book down a Shangri-La to be able to open up your monster zones. You can also book down the Arise Heart, which I'll get to later, to be able to, if all your stuff doesn't get banished anymore. So I do think Book of Moon might be the best of the cards to play. The only other one I can think that it might be possibly better is, I think it's Book of Lunar Eclipse. Yeah, this one's the discard for 2 monsters. So it depends on your deck really, but I do think that these cards are going to be pretty decent. I just think this one's better because you don't have the discard, and you usually only need 1. That's the most important thing. Kashtira Birth, again, this is a card we already have. It's a once per turn special from your graveyard or banished, and then you can normal summon level 7s without tributing. And then if your opponent activates a spell, you can target 3 cards in your opponent's graveyard, banish them face down. That's very good for help countering Runic. That is the biggest thing one of the biggest things, that and D-Shifter and Unicorn ripping, and there's a lot of stuff. Fenrir banishing Fountain. There's a lot of reasons why this deck beats Runic, very unfortunately, and it's why I'm probably going to end up putting Runic down when this deck comes out. There's just a lot of hard matchups for it, unfortunately. Between this and the Ishizu Shuffleback cards, you just don't have a good matchup anywhere. The Runic cards are just out. I don't want to say outclassed, but they're just bad matchups. They're just in-engine bad, so it's quite unfortunate, but that's just how the cookie crumbles in Yu-Gi-Oh! Sometimes you have to wait for another format. But yeah, so that's Birth. Very good card. Again, that's why I'm playing 3 of it. I really like this card a lot. I read this when it came out, and I'm like, wow, this card's broken. It just needs a couple more things to go with it, because the other one that came out with it, with Unicorn Fenrir being Ogre, are not the best. So just the trap's not the best. Like, if it was a crazy trap, it would be better, but we don't have that, so it's fine. Moving forward after Birth, we have Papyrus. This is one of the crazy cards of the deck. So this reads, target a Kashtira monster you control. Special summon a Kashtira with a different attribute from your deck in defense position. Also, you cannot special summon from the extra deck except Exceed monsters. If this card is banished, you can target one of your banished Kashtira cards and add it to your hand. So it is a crazy activated effect and then a crazy banished effect. This card is broken in every way possible. Also, again, this for people who are here can want to play Runic. Banishing this off a Runic card sucks because they get a free card out of it. Just something to consider again. But this card being able to search off Unicorn makes Unicorn so much better. This is because this can get the Fenrir, and then Fenrir can get to Rise Heart, and then you have 3 level 7s on the field, and then you can get the Rise Heart banished, which can trigger your Shangri-La, which can do something else as well, which we'll get to eventually. But yeah, it's just a very silly card, and this is probably one of the best cards that they got. I would say this is probably their number 1, if I had to be quite honest. In this deck, I do play 3 Prosperity. You don't care about the extra deck a lot. As you can see, I'm playing a lot of 3-ofs and just random cards. You really don't need that many. Your main monsters are very strong, like, 24, 25, 15. Like, they're not weak by any means. Just can attack and defense for 26. So yeah, like you're very strong already, and you're like a lot of your interruptions come from it. And then plus, like you really only need Rise Heart and Shangri-La's. Everything else is more like techie choices. We have Mind Hacker, of course, but yeah, like Pot of Prosperity, like it's just good. You don't draw cards in this deck, so it's completely fine to be able to just excavate the top 6 and grab what you need in that situation. Yeah. Now we are going to get to their field spell, which is also insane. Another extremely good spell card to search off Unicorn. It's why I think Unicorn goes from being worse than Fenrir when this set comes out, it becomes better than Fenrir because of literally all the options you get. So we're going to read over the field spell as well. When it's activated, add a Kashtira, just like the Tearlament field spell. It is the same thing. Activate, search a Kashtira. And then monsters you control gain 100 attack and defense for each different attribute among monsters on the field. That might sound very minuscule, but that is very good in the mirror match. So if you are able to have this early on and you have the same monsters on the field, being able to have bigger monsters is very relevant. And then if a Kashtira Shangri-La activates its effect, turn a card on the field and pop it. Very, very good. Again, it's just like the Tearlament's field spell. It pops when the archetype does its inherent thing that it does. That's pretty much the same thing. So your deck is based on triggering Shangri-La. So if you have this on the field, you're going to trigger Shangri-La. So you're going to be able to pop a card a lot of the time. After that, we have Terraforming to help get to the field spell. This is also a new card in the next set. Triple Tactics Tasking. Triple Tactic Tasking. Kind of like Triple Tactics Talent, but a little bit different. We'll go over it again. If your opponent activate a monster effect this turn, just like Talents, but it's just any point in the turn, not just in main phase, set 1 normal spell or trap directly from your deck. It cannot be activated this turn. But there is a caveat, or if your opponent controls a monster, you can add that card to the hand instead. So if you are playing, let's say, like the best option for this would be Tearlament, and you are Bestialed, you can activate Triple Tactics Tasking to, rather than set Instant Fusion, you can add Instant Fusion from your deck to your hand, and then immediately activate that said Instant Fusion to then essentially eliminate that Bestial, right? Because the Bestial was meant to stop your Kikalos play, and now Triple Tactics Tasking almost acts like another Tearlament name, so as long as Instant Fusion is legal, this card will most likely be a staple in Tearlament, in my opinion. But another card that you can get with this card is Talents, and because of how this card works, most of the time when this is live, Talents is live, so you can just search for Talents. But there are other options, because this can add a spell or trap. So if your opponent does something and you don't have a field and you're trying to play through something, you can get Impermanence to negate something. You can also get Prosperity to dig, and you can also just get Talents itself. That's why I'm only playing 1, because you essentially still play 3 Talents, but you just have more options of it. So this is like a very good card coming out next set. And that's it for the spell cards. Next up, we're going to move to the traps, where we just play 3 Imperm. Imperm is still really good because it plays around things like Triple Tactics Tasking next format. So I think this might be one of the few hand traps that are worth it, just because it plays around that card. And it's also like just still really strong, right? Like being able to Imperm critical moments for every deck is very good. Hitting Kikalos, hitting things like Unicorn in this deck, or Shangri-La. There's a couple options in this one. We just gotta learn how to play around it the best. I'm sure as more people test, it'll be more solidified of what we're going to hit. I'm not positive yet. I don't want to tell you the wrong thing, but for things like tier hitting Kikalos obviously is huge. And then for the last new card that is in the main deck at least is Kashtira Big Bang, which is the only trap card that we play for the archetype. It is the new one, and we're going to go over it together. If a Kashtira exceeds monsters on the field, make both players banish monsters on the field face down so they can only control 1. Yeah, there we go. Can't read. But yeah, it's like decent. It's like an okay field effect. You're not using it for the field effect though. Just make sure that you understand that. If this card becomes banished, you can target 1 Kashtira exceed monster you control, add 1 Kashtira monster you own attached to it to your hand, then special summon it from your hand. Okay, this is a very, very weird effect. But it is very, very strong. It is also why Rise Heart is so good. This is your main Rise Heart target. This is your secondary Rise Heart target, but this is your main one. When I say this is because, like I said, if we do the play earlier that we were talking about, we can go Unicorn for Papayas, Papayas for Fenrir, Fenrir for Rise Heart, special summon the Rise Heart, overlay the Fenrir and the Unicorn to make Shangri-La, activate the Rise Heart, banish the trap, and then we can get back the exceed a material under it, so we can get back the Fenrir or the Unicorn, and then a special summon the Fenrir or the Unicorn again, which I'm pretty sure you summon Fenrir, and then you can trigger the Shangri-La because you triggered Rise Heart and then block out zones, but it's a whole combo from there. So that's just the combo. I know this is very complicated without me showing you a visual, but DB Grinder did an excellent combo video on it, I believe. So if you want to check that out, feel free. I think he does a great job of just showing it. Moving on past that, side deck is just options that you can play for next format. Again, Bishios are still very strong because of Tier Element. And then I think Lava Golem and Sphere Mode are very good against this deck. They usually end on 2 to 3 monsters. So I definitely think it is just something to consider. Another card that people are playing is Mushroom Man number 2, unironically, because it is, what's it called? It gives control of itself to your opponent. And during the end phase specifically. Also, it you can't get rid of it. There's no easy way to get rid of it. So you can't special summon Fenrir and Unicorn if this is on the field, pretty much. That's the whole purpose of the card. So it's not bad, but I just don't think it's great personally. But there's something that the OCG was trying out. But yeah. So going on to the extra deck. I am currently playing 1 Entist, 1 Garura, and 1 Wind Pegasus. I will tell you in a minute why I'm playing them. It is I cannot make them. 2 copies of Zeus, because again we're all making Exceed monsters, so you know Zeus is a good card. 3 copies of Rise Heart. This card is fucking broken. This is one of the ones that I cannot believe is printed. Once per turn, if your Kashtira Shangri-La activates effects this turn, you can Exceed summon this by using a Kashtira monster you control. That is any Kashtira, that is not just the Shangri-La. So that Fenrir that you brought back during that combo I was just explaining with just Unicorn, you can just slap you can slap the Rise Heart out of it because you already used Shangri-La that turn. Very good. So if you swap that over there, what does it do? Any card sent to the graveyard is banished instead. Awesome. It's Dimension Shifter. That's what we love to hear. Just continuously. Excellent. Once per chain, each time a card is banished, attach 1 banished card to this card as a material. That is very, very strong. Because anytime anything happens pretty much, you are going to attach a card. Now, this is also the reason why I am playing the Wind Pegasus, Garura, and the Entist. Now, you're probably thinking, Jared, if they're attached to it and you have to detach them to trigger them, they get banished. Okay, well, before we get to the reason why you're not going to detach them, but the purpose of those cards is you banish them off Prosperity, and then you can equip them with the Rise Heart, so that when your opponent has to try to play through it, you are essentially setting up a bomb. You are putting on the Entist, Garura, and Pegasus, and it is very annoying for your opponent to deal with it, because when they deal with it, now there is a Pegasus in the graveyard, you're going to get a draw off and an immediate destruction. That is very hard to play through, and you will most likely not lose the game. You will probably still win, because a lot of decks can start to play through the board. It's just a matter if they can establish their own board. So I do think that this is something that could be worth it, and considering at least. But its last effect is once per turn. Quick effect, you can detach 3 materials, target a card on the field, banish it face down. Wow, that is bonkers, because it is another way to activate the other effect. It is absolutely ridiculous. Any card that has 3 different effects is always broken, I feel like, when there's this much text on a card. So yeah. This is the last card from the next set, and I think this is probably one of the best ones that they are going to get, because it gives them like a boss monster essentially, rather than just a bunch of like level 7 that kind of do something. This actually is like huge as a pop and a macro. Very, very strong. Again, we have 3 copies of Shangri-La because it's the main part of the deck, and you're going to be making this a majority of the time. Draco Sack because it summons tokens, which is whatever, but the main part is that it pops any BS card, really. Just a generic pop, that's all. It can also be annoying to out sometimes with the tokens, but that's not the main purpose of it. It's just the pop. Big Eye, because taking your opponent's monsters is always good. And 2 copies of the Mind Hacker. This card is very, very good, because in some combos you can banish like the top, like I've seen this card banish like I want to say like 15 cards off of its effect, but being able to look at your opponent's extra deck on turn 1, even if they don't interact with you, to banish. This is one of the reasons why Tier Element cannot play one Kikalos anymore because they can look through your extra deck and just banish it and get rid of it. So Tier has to play at least 2. But if they go Unicorn and then do this, you might need 3 because you're going to be losing a lot of cards in the extra deck really, really fast, especially if you have hand interactions like Havness. So if they go like Unicorn, you Havness, you're hitting 1 Kikalos, then they make this later, that's 2 Kikalos, and then you got to play on your turn. If there's a Unicorn still sitting there, you activate anything, that 3rd Kikalos is gone too. You really, this deck is very annoying. It doesn't seem crazy, like, talking about it and, like, reading the effects one by one, but each card does a lot, and there's a lot of annoying disruption. And I'm not going to lie, this deck is sounds, in theory, without me testing, it doesn't sound fun to play against, because it almost feels like you play this, or you're playing a deck that is heavily loses to this, because it's so annoying, because between banishing everything, that takes out like so many decks already, the fact that you have so many cards that banish, and then you're also ripping extra deck cards, that's also really annoying, because it makes people have to play like a million copies of extra deck cards, which then makes deck building annoying. On some decks where the extra deck's already really tight, like Tearlament, for instance, is a perfect example. Like, you don't want to play 3 Kakalos in your extra deck. That's so shit. You have to do it just to play around Kashtira cards now. So we'll see how the Tearlament deck evolves. I'm sure it will without a ban list for now, but that's just where the format's going. So this is, again, my deck list for now. This is something that you can at least try, change around, mess around with. This is not a finalized list by any means whatsoever. Just please give it a shot. Make sure you're prepared to understand what is coming. And I'm telling everybody pretty much of how this interaction has worked with everything, of why this deck is so powerful. And yeah, so overall, I hope you guys enjoyed this informative video. This went on way longer than I thought it was going to, but there's so much information on this deck that it's so different than everything we have right now. It really changes the metagame that I could not talk about it as long as I could. So I wanted to make sure I included as much information as possible. So I overall hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you guys enjoyed this information content for next format, feel free to subscribe. I really appreciate it. And I'm going to start looking into, I want to look into other things from Photon Hypernova, if there's any like other fun options. I haven't really done that yet. I know there's like some Dogmatica cards in there that might be pretty decent, and the branded cards might be pretty good. I'm going to look into those too, but this is the main thing that I wanted to cover because I'm a competitive player, and I know this is the most competitive thing coming out of the next set, so got to be prepared. So, again, overall, hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.